Hi, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. Today we're going to be making this heart garland. So we've got some fabric bows and some nice gorgeous felt hearts. We've got a nice scalloped edging on this one. You can use a straight edge scissor as well, or a zigzag pinking shear if you prefer, but I love how the scalloped edges look on this one. I've included a link below for the heart template if you want the same one as mine, and I've also included a link to the shears that I like to use as well. I'd love to know what you think in the comments. If you have any questions, do let me know, and please like and subscribe. It really helps. Well, it kind of gives me a little boost that it's not just me here, but yeah, I'd love to know what else you'd like to see from the channel. And I hope you enjoy. The garland today, I'll be making 3 hearts and then 4 ribbons to go in between. So we'll use the heart template. We're going to need some main fabric. The main fabric, mine is approximately, I think it's 33 centimetres by 10 centimetres tall. What you want, if you've got a patterned fabric just like mine, you need to put the hearts next to each other. So you basically want your template to fit 3 times directly next to each other. Now, if this wasn't directional patterned like mine, so I can't turn it upside down as the birds will be upside down, you can flip the heart template over and alternate it that way, and then at least it does save a little bit of fabric from there. So you got your main fabric. You'll also need 2 rectangles of felt. So mine's a wool blend felt in a nice complementary colour to the main fabric. Again, I would just do it around 1 centimetre bigger than each side. So you want the heart template to have around 1 centimetre on each side, so that when we cut the edging out, we're not running into the next heart or running out of fabric. You'll need some double-sided adhesive. So this has glue on one side and then a paper back in here. Mine, I'm using Bonder Web, and this will be going on to the main fabric, so we'll want it a tiny bit smaller than the main fabric just so it doesn't overspill when we're doing it from there. Let's move these out of the way, then we can see better. You're going to need some complementary thread. So I use a polyester thread that matches the felt, a darning needle. Now you can pick these up in plastic or in a metal one. I would definitely recommend getting the metal one. Well, I would say just get the metal one, otherwise it won't be able to pierce through the layers of fabric. You're going to need some cotton cord or some string. This is 1 millimetre thick and it can fit through the eye of the darning needle. So this is to hang the garland up at the end. I've got some embroidery scissors to cut off any loose threads, a pencil to draw the heart template on, and then in terms of scissors, I've got my trusty fabric Guggenheim scissors, which I think they're called, and these are possibly the best purchase. I don't think I've actually ever opened anything, and when I've used them to cut, genuinely been speechless. I mean, especially over a pair of scissors, it kind of thinks, where's my life come to be that excited for a pair of scissors? But these are incredible. And then I like to use a decorative edge on my scalloped hearts, well, my hearts. So I'm using some scalloped scissors. You'll also need some ribbon or some strips of fabric to make the bows at the end. So to get started, first we want to iron the adhesive onto the back of the main fabric. So on the wrong side of your fabric, I'm using Bonder Web, but Heat and Bond is another one. So this is a paper backing on one side and then a glue side on the other, so you should be able to see the little texture there, where you can feel the texture once you have it. You want the glue side to be on the wrong side of the fabric, as this, when you apply some heat, that'll melt the glue and then it'll stick to it. I'd recommend keeping it on a low heat. If you do it too hot, sometimes it can bubble up and it doesn't adhere very well. I've got a little heat press here. I'm going to turn that down actually. Not a good sign, is it, when you put something down and it's smoking? As I say, to not do it too hot. And we'll guide this along to adhere to the back. So now that we've got the adhesive ironed onto the wrong side of the fabric, check your direction of the templates. So you want the fabric to be the right way up when you're drawing the heart template. So we're going to do 3 templates today. If your fabric isn't directional, at this point you could turn it upside down and then at least it saves a little bit of fabric on the other side. We're also cutting exactly along the line, so you want them as close as you can get them really. Again, just to save waste in any sort of fabric. It does all go in the scrap pile, but my scrap pile, I'm not sure about yours, seems to be building up faster than it's going down at the moment. And now we want to cut these out using my fabulous. Do you want to know how much I treasure these scissors? I've even still got the box. I mean, come on. So you want to cut along the template now. Next, you want to take one of your felt squares, rectangles, take one of your felt rectangles and one of your hearts. So this paper backing that we've adhered on, you'll be able to peel that off and then it'll leave the glue side of it on the back of the fabric. So here, that shiny part now on this fabric is the glue. Peel that off. And then we can place them down on our felt. That's an ASMR as well, how relaxing. Now in terms of placement for your hearts, when you're doing multiple ones, you want to make sure there's enough space in between. Now because the felt is non-directional, place one heart down, leaving about 1 centimetre, and then you can place the other one upside down and it just gives so much more space at the top. And place all 3 hearts down. And then again, just like we adhered the bonder web to the back of the fabric, you just want to press down with that now. We are going to stitch over these, so this is just as an extra measure, just to stop any sort of movement. And if we don't adhere it down, God, that's hard to say. If we don't adhere it down, then the fabric can move and it can bunch in the middle, which doesn't look as cute. Just a few seconds with this and. So now they're all glued in place, we're going to use a medium stitch zigzag stitch and we're going to go around all of the heart. So you want it just to go onto the felt and just cover the fabric, and we'll zigzag stitch all the way around all 3 hearts. Okay, so we've gone around the heart in a nice medium-sized zigzag stitch. I do like to reduce my stitch length down to about 1.5 rather than the standard 2.5. So you do want to just try and get as close to the edge. I usually try to get a little bit on the fabric and then some on the felt as well, just to cross hatch it over. But yeah, trim off any extra thread. Again, I like to do it both front and the back just to keep everything nice and neat. So the next step, if you get your second piece of felt, so the same size, and you just want to place it on top, pin it together or clip it, and then we're going to use a straight stitch and go all the way around the outside of the heart. For this, make sure you go back to a straight stitch as our machine's currently set to a zigzag stitch, and I like to use a nice medium, either the standard 2.5 stitch or go up to a 3 with it being a top stitch. It doesn't really matter at this point really. If you need to pivot the fabric as well, so if you notice when you're trying to move it, you're going off track, make sure your needle's in a down position and just lift the foot up slightly, turn the fabric underneath it and then keep sewing. So now we've got everything stitched up. I've cut off all of the loose threads, both the front and the back, so now we're left with just our heart outline on both sides and a nice neat stitch. So next you can either use some standard fabric shears, you can use pinking shears. I actually love to use my scallop shears for this one. It just makes it, I mean, you can see when we finished it, it's so cute. Now with the scallop, it is a little bit more difficult than the zigzag serrated edge because you need to line each one up and you need to be mindful of which way the scallops are to go. So this is the right way, whereas if I started cutting this way, you'd then be getting backward scallops. So just something to be mindful of. I am also left-handed, so for all the people that tell me I hold the scissors in the wrong hand, it's because I'm a left-handed. So I like to start at the point at the bottom, go up. Again, you want to go close to the stitch line, but just don't go over it. If you do accidentally, you can just go back over it with the sewing machine. But as you can see, it's close enough to the stitch line, but then also enough felt so you can see the nice scalloped edge. And then for the second one, just line up to your last scallop and then go from there. Just the same way as cutting out paper. So you see here how we haven't got a full scallop, so I'll just line up from here just to then get that back in. You can also just do a few snips at a time, especially as you're getting closer to the corner. What you want to be careful of as well is doing this in case you slip and then you cut all the way along. Another little tip as well, so if you get too close to the corner and you can't do a full scallop one, I tend to use my embroidery scissors just to do a fake scallop really. Well, it's not a fake scallop, it's a scallop just with pink embroidery scissors instead. And then turn and go back from this way. Then just neaten up any edges. You can either use the scallop shears again or just take your embroidery scissors. And then we have our little heart. So once you've got your heart set out, the next thing you're going to need is you can either use some ribbon, or for this one I'm going to actually use some fabric strips. So I'm going to try and make my own ribbon. I haven't actually done this before, so we'll learn together. So what you want to do is you've basically got the selvage edge, which is usually this part here. So when you ask for it to be cut in, say, 1 metre, they go along this and then cut 1 metre, so it's the bottom bit that's usually selvage edge. I'm not going to lie, I'm a little bit nervous for this. Probably doesn't help that I haven't got any room. So we want to start off with a straight line first. So if we get our edge, I'm going to make a little snip just there, and you just got to be confident. And there you have a nice little fabric strip, and what I'm going to do is cut this one in half, and then we're going to need 4 of these in total, so we've got our 2 there. So let's do that again. So we want to go to our selvage edge, either side is fine, so about 3 or 4 centimetres, and confidently just go for it. we'll cut off this edging, fold this in half. There we go. So we've got four nice strips. I just want to make, I think they're actually too small, so that's the edge one. So what I'm going to do is do a final one, the full length of the fabric. Alright, so the final step now is hanging our garland onto the thread. So I like to use a nice, I think this is a 1mm cotton thread. You can also use just craft string or wool if you want to. You just want to make sure it's long enough to be able to hold the weight of your garland, depending how long it is. So let's take the end of our thread. I don't want to cut any off at this stage, just so we can adjust it and then go from there. What we're going to do first is we're going to make up our little ribbons. So for me, I like to do the 2 bunny ears, lead them over, and then just adjust it so it's nice. And also my little girl has woke up from a nap. There we go. Okay, so we've got our 3 hearts and our 4 bows. So now we're going to need to take our cotton cord or our yarn. This is a 1mm cotton cord. I've used wax cotton cord as well from the jewellery section in the craft store. That works alright. It does get a little bit more difficult to slide the elements along because of the wax bit, but it does work alright as well. We're going to get our end of the cotton. We're going to take a wide eye darning needle. And then if we start by threading the needle, there we go. Because we've got the 4 bows and the 3 hearts, we're going to start off with a bow. So we're going to take our thread, and then through the loop of the bow, we're then going to thread the darning needle through. Yeah, so just the back layer, you don't want the thread to be visible on the front, and pull it along. I don't like to cut the cotton cord at this stage. I'd rather do that at the end once everything's on and I can see how long I actually want the garland to be. So we've done 1 heart, and next we're going to do we've done 1 bow, sorry, and next we're going to do the heart. So again, you want to do it on the reverse. I like to do it 3 centimeters down for the top for this larger size, just to help the balance, and then it stops you being able to see it in the middle here. Now, if you've got a cutting mat like mine, you can just lie that down and have a look at the line. So we'll go 3 lines down here and we'll thread it roughly there. Alternatively, you can take like a clear acrylic ruler if you have one, and just whilst you're getting used to it. So this one has lines on it. So I'll go 3 centimeters down, line it up with the top, and then I can just make a little mark with my fabric pen, just so I've got an idea of where I'm going in and out. So this is a smaller darning needle. You can get longer embroidery needles, which I found out the other day, which is cool. But because you can either thread it through or just weave it in, whichever you prefer. I mean, you're not going to see it anyway, it's at the back, so it's all right. Now, the biggest thing to remember here as well is you don't want to go through the back layer. So that's why we got 2 layers of felt. You're just going to go in between. So thread it along. Can be a bit tricky just because we have got the double end from there. So in, out. Double check that it's not on the back or on the front, and then pull it along. And then repeat. Right, so we've got all of our hearts and bows threaded onto the cord. So just at the end, I like to do a little slip knot. So you want to take the bit with the garland on, and loop that around to make a circle. You want to get your end thread and loop it through, but don't pull it all the way through. So keep hold of the end bit with your thumb. And then if you pull it, you have a little slip knot here. So once you've got your spacing, you can do it once it's already on the wall. So just cut some excess off on the other end of the thread, on the other end of the yarn. Cut that. We'll do another little knot. So loop that around, pull it through, and then pull that. And now we're all done. Look at that, it's super cute, isn't it? I love how it turned out. I love how the fabric bows are. You know, they are a bit rough and ready because I could have spent ages perfecting how the bows are tied, but I would genuinely be there all day because I'm not very good at it. But yeah, I'd love to see what you create. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments what you'd like to see next. And I hope you have a lovely day.